Welcome to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. This show will take you from confusion to clarity, confidence and emotional healing to a joyful pregnancy. This is the place where we uncover the real truth about fertility and why preparing for conception, mind, body and soul, is more important than ever. With honest, empowering conversations, we'll explore the hidden factors impacting fertility and how a holistic approach can help you take back control of your journey. Whether you're trying naturally, navigating IVF, or just starting out, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're already on your way. So let's walk this path together. Ritchie, Holistic Health and Fertility Specialist. And I'm so delighted to have you join me on the show today. And the topic we're going to be talking about is something that I feel is very important, and I feel it really needs to be talked about a lot more, because it does have a big effect not only on our health, our overall health, but also very much on fertility and can get in the way of conception happening, but also on the health of any future children as well. And sadly, we live in a world today where, exposure to toxins and hormone disrupting chemicals is almost impossible to avoid. It's sad, isn't it? But, it's from the products that we clean our home with, to what we put on our skin, to what we cook with, to what we even breathe in on a daily basis. And it's these everyday exposures that can really quietly impact our hormones, our fertility, but even more importantly as well is our long-term health. And, today I'm going to really be sharing with you how to reduce your exposure to these toxins and endocrine disruptors and, really help to, create a healthier internal and external environment, if you like, but also to increase your chances of conceiving. But, going forward, protecting your health, but also protecting the health of your future child as well. And, I'm not talking about, this subject because I want to scare you. That's that's not what my intention is. It's really about creating awareness so that you can step into that place of choice. And, you don't need to throw everything away that you're currently using or live a toxin-free life. And it's not about making these changes overnight. So instead, I'm really just going to be explaining, why reducing your exposure is important, and, give you some, simple, realistic changes that you can make that will, help you to significantly reduce the risk, but also, support good hormone balance, support your fertility, and, having a calmer and healthier home. So the truth is, this matters to you whether, you're looking to conceive naturally or you're going the IVF route. And it also applies to both men and women too. So I think I'm going to start by just saying, why you should be thinking about, your exposure to toxins when you're trying to conceive. Now, even though they're invisible, some of the most harmful chemicals for hormonal health are actually found in our home. And, many chemicals, both natural and man-made, they might mimic or interfere with the body's hormones. And, that system in the body is known as the endocrine system. And these chemicals are known as endocrine disruptors. You might have heard of that term. If not, it's something new. So let me explain what endocrine disruptors are. Well, they are chemical compounds that interfere with the normal functioning of your endocrine system. Now, that also affects the reproductive system and other biological processes that your endocrine system regulates in your body. And the endocrine system is this complex network of glands and organs that are responsible for creating and releasing hormones that, gets into your bloodstream, and they carry messages throughout the body. So key glands that, are impacting your fertility are the pituitary gland, your ovaries, your testes, but there are also other glands as well that are important. And all those hormones send signals to all the different tissues in your body, telling them what to do. Now, when these chemicals get into our bodies, they can mimic our natural hormones. And this is where, it becomes detrimental to, hormone sensitive organs. And those, organs are like the uterus, your breast, but the immune system and our neurological systems. And they also can have an impact on human development. And that's where obviously we're talking about this, because it's about protecting your baby as well, and its development when you're pregnant, its development in the womb. So what impact does hormone imbalance have on fertility? Well, it can certainly affect the fertility in both men and women. And, one of the sort of key things, if you like, that where hormones are having an impact is when women have, PCOS. They can also affect thyroid disorders, and, other endocrine disorders can disrupt other normal hormone functions and leading, to issues such as having irregular menstrual cycles, lack of ovulation, and low sperm production. And in men, these hormones are only disrupted if you've got low testosterone levels. That can lead to, reduced sperm production, and, affecting hormonal issues such as libido and just generally sort of overall productive health. Now, one of the sort of hormones or chemicals that come in that are a problem, particularly for women with PCOS, is they're called xenoestrogens, so false estrogens. And xenoestrogens are synthetic or natural compounds that actually mimic estrogen in the body. And obviously, estrogen is a really important hormone when it comes to conceiving, as I'm sure you're well aware. And the problem is that these xenoestrogens can be found in various everyday products, such as, plastic, personal care items, things that you're putting on your body, cosmetics, and also they're in pesticides, which can obviously, as you're probably well aware, end up on a lot of our food in terms of, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So what are the worst fertility disruptors that, I just want to highlight these because it would take me a long time to go through everything in detail. But what I will say is that I am going to share with you about a free ebook that I have, which will take you deeper into this whole subject, which is called A Handy Guide to a Non-Toxic Home, but we'll come to that later. So things like, you might have heard of BPAs. Well, BPAs is a chemical that's used in hard plastic packaging. And, that's packaging in terms of water bottles, but also packaging that food and other drinks and stuff come with. It's everywhere today. The other chemical to be very aware of is phthalates, and these are found particularly in soft plastic products, so it makes the plastic soft and more malleable. And unfortunately, that also includes plastic toys. And then we have parabens, and also which is very much found in personal care products, particularly shampoos, makeup, cosmetics, creams that we put on our bodies and stuff, lipstick, all that sort of stuff. And then there's benzophenone, which is in sunscreens. And probably a very common one, which is in skincare products and shampoo, is sodium lauryl sulfate, which is also quite often, if you're looking on labels, will be abbreviated to SLS. Now, the other area where there are chemicals is our furniture and electronic items in the home, because furniture these days all has to be sprayed with fire retardants to reduce fire risk in the home, which obviously is, there is a benefit to that, of course. But also I'll be talking a little bit later about how you can reduce your exposure to some of those. The other thing we need to talk about is fish, and particularly large fish such as tuna and swordfish. And unfortunately, more and more these fish, our seas are becoming more polluted, and it's becoming a much bigger issue, because there are things like mercury and PCBs which are showing up, particularly in large fish. And, I personally advise all of my clients to stop eating these large fish, um, because, and also some of the seafoods that are actually filtering the seawater as well because of, these chemicals and pollutants that are in them. And with the larger fish, the problem is that the larger the fish, the longer they've been swimming around in the seas, and the more they're picking up, if you like, in terms of the amount of volume, of harmful chemicals, particularly mercury. And then because they're eating, their diet is eating fish, and those fish are polluted, so it sort of all builds up in them. And then, the other area, things which you need to look out for is pesticides. And obviously, I don't, most of farm produce, if you like, fruits and vegetables and things like that are sprayed with pesticides today, which is unfortunate, unless, of course, they're organically grown, which is a different thing. So let's talk now about, it's all very well knowing all of this, but what can you do to start to reduce your exposure to some of these harmful chemicals? Well, my advice very much is to, excuse me, to become what I call a label warrior or a label detective. Because did you know that the average woman uses 12 beauty products a day? And those 12 products, can contain a staggering 168 different chemicals. It's a bit scary, isn't it? When you look at it like that, it's a little bit scary. But there are things we can do to avoid those. So what can you do? Now, I know that, when you come to look at switching products to more natural and organic products, they're, often and predominantly tend to be a lot more expensive than some of the other products that are, generally available on the market. So my advice here is really, prioritize the products that you're using on your skin, that use the most, so things that you're using on a daily basis, or it's not only on the daily basis, but the products that you're putting on, the biggest amount of skin on your body, because your skin is an organ that really absorbs things very, very quickly. Where anything on your skin gets absorbed very quickly into your bloodstream. So, that is a very important tip that you can, start putting in place. Now, there's also, I think that we've been driven very much by advertising. We're seeing adverts on a daily basis of, we need to wash our hair every day. Well, the reality is that we don't need to wash our hair every day. So, one of the other tips is by using less, washing your hair less frequently. You can, you use less of a shampoo that might be a bit more expensive, and, the cost will then be, evening itself out, if you like. And also my other thing is around the whole thing of, it's like we need to shower every day. And it's really, actually, it's not always necessary. And the other thing is, we don't need to shower with soap and put soap over our bodies every day. I know you're probably looking at me absolutely in horror when I say that. But the truth is that we have a microbiome on our skin, and that's very important to protect ourselves from harmful pathogens and bacteria and all of that. And by washing our bodies with soap every day, we're just destroying that microbiome. And unless you're, really sweaty, or, you've been swimming and you want to get chlorine off, it's not essential to shower every day. And, I can honestly admit, and you're probably going to be horrified too, that for the last 10 years, I do not use soap on my body showering every day. And certainly my husband hasn't said anything to me about the fact that I smell or anything like that, and neither any of my family. So, and I know he would if it was the case. So, yeah, it really, you could stop showering, if you not stop showering, but not using soap on your skin every day. Now I have to talk about fragrances. Fragrances is one of the things that I get quite upset about, because I don't know about you, but I just seem to see so many adverts on the television every day talking about smell, and this spray to, make your clothes smell better, this spray to make your room smell better. We seem to have become obsessed, if you like, with that everything has to smell nice. But the problem is that many of these products contain harmful chemicals, and we've got sprays, you've got candles, you've got plug-in air fresheners, and plug-in air fresheners, have harmful phthalates. I mentioned those earlier, that, you're breathing those in all of the time. So do check what's in them. And you know what? Opening, that old-fashioned way of just opening the window to freshen your room, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a really good thing to be doing. And, we have to talk as well here when we're talking about fragrances, we have to talk about vaginal sprays. And I basically say to you, please do not use those at all. They're not necessary. Your vagina is perfectly capable of keeping itself nice and clean and fresh. And the other thing as well is that, when it comes to feminine products for periods, unfortunately, some research back in 2024 shown that period products contain harmful chemicals such as pesticides, heavy metals, and PFAs. And those pose a potential risk for you, and particularly because they're you're either putting them in your vagina and they're getting into the bloodstream very quickly. And, I know that if you haven't heard of this might come as a bit of a shock. So, really, it's really important to, swap and literally be using those products that are actually organic cotton, if you like, or you can, use for the sort of reusable options, if you like, things like moon cups. But with everything, it's about checking the ingredients and what's in things that's important. Plastic, important. Plastic is everywhere. But, here's some simple ways that, you can start reducing your exposure to using plastic. Get yourself a stainless steel water bottle, which you take out with you. Don't actually, go and buy water bottles, plastic water bottles of water. Use glass containers for storing your food. These are available, in many shops at quite a cheap option now. Avoid using cling film, and, there are wax food wraps that you can use today. And, just in general, try and reduce your amount of, the amount of foods that you buy that are already in plastic, and don't microwave any food in plastic either. And, research on BPAs that, we talked about are commonly used in plastics have a particularly negative impact on male fertility. And, research has shown that exposure to BPAs for men is linked to reduced sperm counts, impaired process of, the formation of the sperm cells, and also having an impact on sperm production. So, there's a good thing to actually, move away from plastic as much as you possibly can. I know it's impossible to, pretty much get rid of it altogether. So what do you clean your house with? I'm sure you'll have many, products actually in your home with some big black crosses on it, and perhaps say, avoid, this is harmful. And the problem is that these chemicals are not only affecting our health, they also have an impact on the environment and the wildlife as well. So, my advice here is to really switch to, products that are natural. As I said, avoid the ones that got these big black X's saying danger and all of those things on it. But you know what? There are many very, the sort of more old-fashioned cleaning methods that use natural things like lemon juice and vinegar. And, there are plenty of websites there. You can go online and search for natural alternative solutions. For example, getting rid of limescale, which is like, sometimes a big problem. You just use the juice of a lemon, leave it on for a while and wash it off. Works a treat. And, there are also e-cloths out there as well. And, with those, you just need water and you don't need any other, things to go on them to clean with. And they're a great way of reducing exposure to cleaning. So really, overall advice is just switch to organic, natural, and eco-friendly products for, all the cleaning needs that you have in your home. And I can't not talk about food. Well, it's sad, but, probably the vast majority of food, which isn't organically grown, will be sprayed with pesticides. And it's not great for the environment, it's not great for our health, and it's not great for our children's health either. So the answer for this is that really ideally buy as much organic produce as you can afford. I'm well aware that organic produce is more expensive than non-organic produce, and there's always that implication of your budget when it comes to your shopping that you need to take into account. And I personally totally appreciate that, and it impacts everybody. But the other thing as well is to, as much as possible, and certainly, making sure that you wash all your fruits and vegetables really well, to reduce your exposure as much as possible. And I think, certainly when it comes to, your future child and bringing up children, it's really important, to really, use, if you like, and give them as much organic vegetables and fruits as possible. And some fruits and vegetables are not as bad as other, and there is a sort of list of the cleaner products, if you like, and you'll actually find that list in the ebook, the Handy Guide to a Non-Toxic Home that I mentioned earlier on. And that will give you a list of the ones that are more heavily, where pesticides are used more heavily, and products where little pesticides are used. So that will help you in the budgeting as well, if you like, making sure that you prioritize the ones that have got the most pesticides and buy those organic. And the ones that are not such a likely to have such a heavy use of pesticide, then you can happily choose those as well. Now, I've only been able to really touch on things relatively briefly. I hope I've given you, some quite good introduction and given you some good tips on how you can, reduce your exposure to harmful chemicals, and, hopefully have increased your awareness to become that label detective, that label warrior, because, that is important. But if you want to find out more and you want to go deeper, as I said, I have got a free ebook, Your Handy Guide to a Non-Toxic Home, Creating a Healthy Home Environment for Fertility, Pregnancy and Family. And you can get your copy from my website, which is sue-ritchie, ritchie.com /e-books. And I do hope that you don't feel overwhelmed or fearful from what I've shared today. That really hasn't been my intention at all. But, I do feel quite strongly that we all need to become much more aware of the level of toxins, of harmful chemicals that we are exposed to, almost, literally every day today. And, the good thing is that with awareness, we can start to take action. And it's, important really for protecting, not only your own health, but also, the health of a future child, the health of the next generation. And if there's one thing that I'd really like you to take away from today, and that is just start to become more conscious, become more aware, take notice, check the labels on products, see what's in them. And there's plenty of ways of Googling whatever, we might find to find out more about the ingredients. And, it's going to be so important for you to really be creating a much healthier home environment that's going to protect you and your future child from, unnecessary exposure that can harm both health and well-being. And if you feel, you need some support, I'm here, and all you need to do is just to reach out. So thank you so much for joining me today. We are coming to the end of the show now. And if this episode, has resonated with you in any way, or if you think you know someone who needs to hear this, please do share it with them. And, if you're ready and you want to really take a more holistic approach to your fertility journey, I'd really love to, walk that path with you. So we're not talking just about conception, and we're talking about creating healthy, happy couples who are supported, informed, and empowered to become healthy, happy parents. And to me, that really is the heart of it all, creating healthy, happy couples to make healthy, happy babies. So until next time, please stay curious and stay hopeful too. And, please do take ever such good care of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. To stay informed and inspired, be sure to tune in every third Tuesday of the month at 7:30 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and sign up for my newsletter for helpful tips on boosting fertility and preparing for positive, empowered parenthood. If you're ready for more support, connect with me on social media on Instagram and LinkedIn and at Optimum Fertility, or visit my website at sue-ritchie.com.